24 hours after the event and the area remains a crime scene as officers build an accurate timeline of the suspect's movements as well as how the Met themselves responded. It's not yet known whether it was parked somewhere waiting, but at around 2:15 the blue Vauxhall Tigra drove up Artillery Place, then crossed onto the opposite side. It hit Lee Rigby, who'd been walking near Woolwich Barracks, which is just 150 metres away. It was just the beginning of a prolonged and gruesome killing. After their car had crashed into a road sign, the men jumped out and began to attack the victim with knives and a meat cleaver, though some witnesses didn't realise what was going on.
And as I drove round, I see two blokes lean over another bloke, and I presumed that it looked like they were trying to resuscitate him, because that's how they were doing down there.
The dead or dying soldier was then dragged into the middle of the road. At 2:20, witnesses called 999. 10 unarmed local officers were sent to the scene, arriving 9 minutes later at 2:29, but they didn't attempt to confront the armed assailants.
They arrived at a situation where the victim, it was pretty evident there was nothing to be done to help him. What would have happened if uniformed officers had approached these men? What would the men have interpreted that as, and how would they have reacted to it? And I think we're going to come up with things would have got worse, not better.
It was 4 minutes after the initial emergency call that it became apparent that an armed response was needed. The closest CO-19 firearms unit was deployed, getting to the scene within 10 minutes, 14 minutes after the first 999 call. There are always at least 12 armed patrols somewhere in London, 6 in the north of the city and 6 in the south, concentrating on known areas of high gun crime. But the speed with which they can be on the scene depends entirely on how far they need to travel.
Within 14 minutes, the whole incident was dealt with. It is speedy. It can seem awful when you look at those graphic pictures, but we put into place tried and tested procedures with highly trained officers that did what we asked them in very difficult circumstances.
While armed officers were on their way, the suspects engaged in several conversations with witnesses, encouraging them to take pictures on their phones. Some bystanders were trying to reason with them.
He said to her and to everyone else that was surrounding them, no man is coming in this body, only women.
The arrival of police vehicles containing armed officers prompted the suspects to run towards them down Artillery Place. Officers immediately opened fire.
They've been confronted with a life-threatening mortal threat. It seems to me that these men were intent upon suicide by cop, which is what they were going to do. They wanted a grandstand. They were waiting for the police to do it, and when they had turned up, they moved forward in an aggressive way, intending to do harm if they weren't brought down. They were brought down in a measured way.
Video taken in the aftermath shows where the suspects fell. Officers could be seen at their side as they waited for paramedics to arrive. An air ambulance was deployed to take them to the hospitals where they're being treated, guarded and questioned. Ian Woods, Sky News.